First up is Nadia. So yeah, this has come a long way since the just that first breakdown thing. There's a lot going on here. Um, I think that it's clear you've paid some real attention to keeping the hand on the door and the way the hand turns while it's shutting. There's a lot of this kind of nice sort of overlapping stuff going on here. The spine needs like a twist to it. It's too straight all the time. I mean, I guess there's a little twist just right there, but overall it has a bit of a stiff look to it. I guess there's some curve to it here, but it's a little so. I will go a little further with, getting some twist in that on there. The step looks a little floaty, like it looks like he sort of just kind of glides in, sort of. I would kind of, you know, have him walk up and stop, completely, rather than this kind of easy floating in there, kind of move in and stop. The Yeah, it's good that you broke down that turn. I think I'd like to see more kind of shifting of the weight from foot to foot. Um, and then, yeah, some facial stuff could really help out. Another thing is take a look at the hand as it comes down. I mean, it does change position, the fingers do, but which is good. But I think you could, spread them out a little quicker. I guess maybe it's all right. I think we don't see it as much. It's fine. The thumb kind of sticks out a little bit, but it's all right. So yeah, adding some blinks and facial stuff is really going to help this. And that again, you can't just. This is one of those where it looks like you're just moving the one control and everything else is freezing. It looks like just the shoulders are moving. Put a little slight weight shift from the root in, a slight change of the curvature of the spine, a little bit of neck and head movement. It can be very small, but there has to be some movement from those other controls. Otherwise, it looks very stiff. So don't just move the one control. You got to try and touch all of them. But overall, this is good. There's a lot of subtlety to this stuff. And if you need any help, figuring out how to do any of those edits, let me know, and I can demonstrate that. Next up is Cameron. So you've picked, a challenging sequence here, and I think the thing that's really giving me the hardest time is the way the feet are sliding around, and I have this concerned feeling that maybe you're moving the bottom circle control to get her to move around. And then that's why the feet aren't sticking. Either that or you need help with the way you're animating your feet so they do stick. If you could send me the Maya file of this, I can show you how to get those feet to stick. If you've animated that base curve, you'll need to go back and delete the animation off of that and then put the motion back on her by moving her root. Otherwise, it's nearly impossible to get the feet to stick properly. That bottom circle is mainly there just to place them at the beginning of the scene, and they should move away from it. Otherwise, yeah, like I said, the feet won't stick. Yeah, you have some good timing stuff going on here. I think she needs more of a hold here, like there, stop, maybe look back the other way. But yeah, she needs some holds. And you kind of have a sort of a hold here, which was good. I think that again, there's issues with the footfall, so this foot should stick back while this leg takes kind of a big leap, like a running leap, so that foot should be way forward of that one. And then, before that one comes forward. So this should be all the way in front, that one should be all the way back, with their legs kind of, in opposite directions. And then this one should stick when that one comes forward. and then before she goes up, you have her going down, which is good. But the thing is, she runs up and then she loses all her forward momentum, and then she goes down and leaps over. And I think that this would be more dynamic if that all happened at once. If, have her go, this foot lands, and as this one's coming forward, her root translates down, and her hands hit this, which is good, and she goes over like she does. So if that could be more of a continuous running jump, it would be more dramatic and believable than having a run up, stop, and then jump over. If it was a kind of a continuous motion, and again, if you need help with that, send me the file. But you've chose some complicated stuff, and I think you've got a good kind of foundation for an animation here. I just think it needs some more work, and again, particularly on the getting those feet to stick, and then the sort of momentum. Yeah, and this, this whole thing, that's not easy to do, and you've got a lot going on there. There's good stuff. So nice work on this. Next up is Sebastian. There's a lot of really good stuff going on here. You've got facial stuff going on, the subtlety of how he moves that hand up to lift himself up. You've really broken down the getting up into a number of stages there. The one arm, the other arm, the knee, the way he puts his head down as he slides his knees forward, the next knee, the next leg. Stand. I mean, that is a good, going from lying down to standing. It's, obvious, a lot of thought and a lot of attention to detail. Good work on that. Looking around, not quite sure what he's reacting to there. Sees the ball, looks in the camera. Nice kick. The run up to the kick looked a little funny to me, like his steps looked sort of really small, but the kick itself was really great. So this is overall really good work. There's some kind of pop in the hand when he sets it down. That's all looking good. You might what you have is this kind of continuous motion. It could be good to break it up with little mini holds, kind of like you have there. But if you're like one leg, other leg, like for example, even if it's just a few frames, if you just kind of, hit that, just the smallest pause, and then do that. And see that he goes down before he goes up. And then here the fingers are looking a little stiff, and the arms are looking a little stiff. Maybe get a little bit more elbow and wrist movement in there on those turns, because the arms are looking really rigid right now. The double take it's clear, it's just maybe a bit big. I might go smaller in that. And it's just those first two steps just look a little too small. I think maybe it was just had to do with where you placed the ball in the beginning, that you didn't have enough room for him to take the bigger steps that he might do. I'm not sure what it was, but right now the steps look really small. And then that bounce. Oh, I guess it's landing on water is the thing, is why it bounces like that. Yeah, we sort of really want some kind of splash. I don't want you to get into trying to do a splash in this class, because it's kind of a whole other topic, and I don't want you getting absorbed in it. But I was wondering why the bounce looked weird, and now I kind of understand that it's landing in water. But I still think maybe it could like bob a little bit at the end. Um, and then yeah, this shot is good. That one, I'm not really loving that shot, because a couple things. One is, why is half the frame not have any sort of content that we need to know about in it? If if I was going to go this wide, I would kind of scooch the camera, like rotate it so these were maybe a little bit more centered. It just seems odd to have that much sort of kind of dead space. And the other thing to know is the idea of cut on the action, which means you're almost there. I mean, one could argue this is cutting on the action. I would argue that it's not. So the thing is, you cut like here, and then he finishes standing up in the next shot. But about this shot, it's so similar to this shot that it looks like a jump cut. So I would vary these more. I understand how you ended up going as wide as you did because probably you wanted the ball and his full standing height in the shot, which makes sense. I would just kind of rotate the camera so these were more centered. And then on this one, to make it feel like less than a jump cut, you can change the angle more so it's not sort of so straight on, or you can push in a little closer on him. There is an awful lot of headroom in this shot, so you could frame this tighter while still keeping his whole body in the shot, and then it would be more different from the previous shot. Maybe change the angle a little bit, come around the side a little bit, just to vary it up a little bit. Try that. Yeah, that's working. Yeah, so this is really good work. A lot of attention to detail. Clearly a lot of time and effort to put into this. So just great job. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always more you can do that's sort of never done, but I think you've done a really nice job here. Next up is Todd. Okay, there's a lot of good stuff going on here. It looks like you spent some time in your textures. Was the first thing I noticed. They're looking pretty good. One thing I was sort of looking at the scale of the different things, and it feels like there might be some mismatches because he just looks really big compared to the size of the height of the building and the window to me. But then this dumpster also looks really, really big. I don't know. I might just take call him 6'5" or 6.5 feet or something, and then maybe do some comparisons of reference images for where that would hit on a building, where that would hit on a dumpster. And I mean, I could be wrong, but it looked a little off. But let's focus on the animation. It's good. I get that he's sneaking up, but some of it feels a little slow motion-y to me. And that first step was a little... So let's just go one shot at a time. Anyways, let me just say, first of all, you've done a lot of great work. It's looking good. I'm always going to point out what could be improved more than talk about what's good, but there's a lot of good stuff going on. So, good pose here. I think that if you can get, a breakdown in there where there's a little bit of wrist movement, especially kind of, just a slight overlap, so after it gets to the top, it moves a little bit more. Yeah, and so that first step looks a little awkward. It almost looks like a limp, and also it looks like, kind of doesn't look like both feet are on the ground. It sort of looks like, like if this one's on the ground, it looks like that's sort of floating above the ground. Maybe that's just an illusion, but maybe if you have a little bit more texture on the ground or a cast shadow, that'll clear that up, if I'm mistaken. So you've got some good weight stuff going on up until here. I'm feeling like if he has his leg at this angle and then lifts that up, where his hip is sort of like gonna fall over, so maybe compensate by that by like leaning the body this way more. Um, and maybe, the thing to do is you might try that would help with the kind of slow feeling I was describing is kind of it's like if you're sneaking up and you're getting ready for action, you want your feet planted as much as possible. So you want to take these kind of small but quick steps. So it's kind of like shoot, shoot, you know what I mean? Like a few quick steps. So overall, the body is moving forward slowly, but you're taking these kind of quick steps so that your feet aren't off the ground for a long time, so that you're sort of ready for action. And I think what's part of what's affecting the balance issue is this like you know, this sort of it's sliding along the ground, but like yeah, like the length of time his foot is off the ground. If he took a quicker step, but overall didn't move his body forward that fast, you'd get that kind of cautious sneak, but still give it a good sense of stability. And I feel like it happens a little better at the end there. And I like this stuff. I feel like you're cheating a little bit with that slide. I'm not kind of believing that slide so much because he would. First of all, there's nothing that in his movement that really sort of propels. He kind of turns, and there's no kind of push that sort of slides him forward. He's just kind of gliding out. So I think maybe a little recoil and then leap would be better. It's good that he kind of lands and then recovers. That's nice. But maybe some like offset. So the arm stays sort of perfectly rigid with the body, and it'd be good if that was at least subtly offset. It's sort of like the movement of the arm gun. It's just a couple frames behind the body, so it doesn't have that super rigid feel to it. Good posing on the hand there. So there's loads of good stuff in here. Lots good concept, good shots. Lots of good poses. Just a few little things to fix up. And I think it could really fly. So very good work on this. Next up is Crystal. Good. It's a very ambitious piece. There's a lot going on here, and there's some nice moments where I like sort of the excitement at the end, um, like the putting elbow on the table. This is a little where the right hand freezes there, but I like that she's placing her left hand on the table to help with that movement. Um, so yeah, as far as improvements, the first thing is the walk. I think that she's kind of dragging her feet, and it looks like the feet or placement is good until here suddenly. See how here both feet, she's sort of ice skating all of a sudden. Both feet are sliding at the same time, and you're really going to want to keep one foot planted while the other one moves very consistently. So it looked like you were doing okay with that here. Yeah, look, that her right leg is planted nicely, then her left leg seems to be planted nicely, and then all of a sudden she's sliding, sliding, sliding. And then her legs kind of pop, kind of a little weird there. So, you need to put in those steps if you're going to have her walk in. The other thing is, you don't have to have someone walk in the room. Like, she could just start near the computer and sit down. Like, that's a fine place for an animation to start. So, it looks like her arm is overextended here. So, kind of take the controller and move it back a little bit so it doesn't have that, like, overextended look. And here's where you did this nice thing later where she has her hand planted on the table. It's nice. This might have been a good opportunity to plant her hand on the chair while she sits down to support her weight. Looks like maybe you were thinking of that. I don't know. And I see that she's pulling the chair out, but it kind of doesn't make sense. It's like somehow she touches it and it magically slides out. I mean, she needs to stop, slide the chair out, then continue moving forward instead of this one sort of really quick continuous movement. Yeah, I think it's a little. It might be overall. You might just be trying to do too much in the time you have, because all of these things could be breaking down forward with more detail to feel a little bit more fleshed out. What you do have an opportunity here to do, this is a okay wide shot to establish the room. I might do a cut, it's like right in the middle as she's standing down, to like a medium shot that looks something like that, because we've got a lot of dead space in here. And you could cut here, maybe kind of bring the camera around here so we don't have so much of the screen blocking our view of her. The camera could kind of be viewing her a little bit more at that angle there while she's sitting. There's a little bit of a pop here with the arm. Maybe it's the elbow animation. Anyways, I would rest the hand on the binoculars for a moment, then lift them up. And then you have this weird thing where the hand is locked there, and I understand it can be challenging. You have this arm on IK, so it's hard to keep it moving, but right now it looks like her hand is sort of resting on something there. Her right hand. I mean, it's good that the left one is, but the right hand shouldn't be. So keep that moving. And let's watch the walk at normal speed. It's just a very weird walk. It goes much too fast, and it sort of skips ahead. And then, we kind of don't give her enough time looking out the window to react. I mean, when I watch these sequence of actions, this is a 10-second animation you've turned in. I think to do this scene would need to be at least twice as long. Maybe 3 times as long, just to give the walk the time it needs to be broken down, to give the sitting down the time it needs. Like, if she's looking and thinking at the computer, she needs time to look and think and react. She needs time to pick up the binoculars. She needs time to stand up from there. She needs time for this walk. She needs time to, actually look at something out the window, then react. So everything, it's very compressed. You're trying to do so much in the 10 seconds, and it's really too much to fit into that time. So, if you want to keep on with your animation for this class, what I would say is to narrow in on a portion of this that you are excited about doing. And to me, I would probably start the animation here, sit down, pause. You could do one cut. First you could start a little tighter to begin with, and then she could sit down. You could do like a cut like here as she puts her hand, and maybe get a little bit better if that's supposed to be the head resting on the hand. Really take the time to bend the wrist back a little bit, lean the head into the hand, etc. Get that a nicer pose, and then give her a moment to look at that, and maybe have a little wireless mouse on the table. She moves around and clicks a couple times first. Then, lift the binoculars, get this walk right. And there's a trick here. Like, if you just want to have her stand up and you don't want to do the walk, you don't have to. Like, movies don't show every bit of motion in the scene all the time. You can actually cut to a kind of a medium shot at the window where she's in the next shot. She kind of just, you can just show this like last bit of moving towards the window, maybe like frame it a little bit nicer so we can see a lot more of her. But you don't have to show every bit of motion. You don't have to show her walk all the way up to the window. And then you could have her look and then react, and that could be the whole thing. So anyways, if you want to keep animating on this, try to cover fewer actions. You're trying to do too much in the amount of time you have, and too much for the time we have in this class to do work. That said, I can tell a lot of thought and effort went into this. One note is, when you do your play blasts, hide everything besides the polygons, because all this, like, these arrows and little stuff is a little distracting. All right, good work. Next up is Byron. Yeah, nice kind of artistic shot to open this up with. It's cool. Um, and I like that there's kind of a pause in the opening that opens a little and then opens more. I think the motion of the bee to be a little bit more bee-like, it kind of takes off like I don't know, like a helicopter or something. And I think bees have that very kind of just a real rapid way of moving. They sort of go in these sort of faster lines and turn sharp corners. They just move really fast. And I get it's a big giant cartoon bee, so you're not necessarily subject to that. And so that's okay. But I think that it might be good to, look at some bee reference and just get, you can still be cartoony, but a little more bee-like, that kind of very quick movements. Um, and yeah, this has improved. I really like how she's tending to slide these over. I think that if, again, this edge here was resting on that as she moved it to begin with, that would be good. And you've got it right here where when she gets it to that point, she slides it down. That's really nice. I feel like I guess that's alright. Yeah, I don't know. Let me just watch that full speed. It might, um, the way it settles down, I think it could come down a little faster and kind of be a little more abrupt on the stop. But that's good. I mean, it's really good that you've got her hitting this ledge and sliding it across. I just wish that we were doing this. The other thing is the way that interacts with that. I don't know. It looks a little. It looks like it would be interpenetrating that. It's a little hard to tell from this point of view. And you go from here, and suddenly she's got the whole thing kind of floating in the air. And again, I think if that was resting on there, that would be better. The rest of that's good. Okay. Yeah, and I guess I'm wondering. God, we're already. That's 9 seconds. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, good work on this. Next up is Steven. So this is just looking great. There's so much good stuff going on in here. Um, I'm really liking everything going. I'm liking the establishing shots where I really understand the space. Really liking the scoots forward. It brings back sort of memories, and you really got the timing and motion right on that. And I think you said something about not putting in the close up of the carrot hitting the nose. I would just give it another shot and understand that your timing doesn't need to be perfectly linear and continuous, right? It's not like if we spend time looking at this head that we can't see the rest of the shots. Like filmmaking isn't perfectly linear in the edit, if you know what I mean. So you can have uh, that does go awfully fast. But yeah, I mean, you can have show the throw and then cut to the nose hitting the face close up, and maybe like the head shifts back a little bit or something with the force of the carrot hitting it, and then you can cut right back to this moment. It is a fact that time has passed, and if it was perfectly linear, you wouldn't see that. But usually for filmmaking, that you get away with that kind of stuff. That stuff just works. So give it a shot. See if you like it. You may or may not like it. Really like the fist pump at the end. Yeah, it's really great. There's so much good stuff going on here. Now I'm really wanting to see like the snow dynamic stuff, but that's a giant project, so I very much wouldn't expect it for the class. I guess and if you feel strongly you don't want to do the close up of the nose hitting the face, I think getting some action on some reaction of the snow head when the carrot hits it, the force of it hitting it, will just help draw our attention to that. So either way, I would try that where the head shifts back when the carrot hits it. But I still, and obviously like the idea of a close up of the carrot hitting the face. So fabulous work. Really just really impressive. Next up is Stephanie. So there's a lot of nice stuff going on in here. First thing that's I would say just it's a little distracting to have all this other stuff in there. So just make sure you hide everything besides the polygons when you play Blast. This first step is looking a little funny. Um, I would generally like don't start in such a neutral pose. Like it's always good to think, what was she doing before this? She wasn't just standing and staring blankly at the wall. You know what I mean? Like maybe she was, I don't know, maybe she had just set the sword down. Maybe she was scratching her ankle. Maybe she was, adjusting her shirt or something. You know what I mean? Like, or scratching her head. Anything. Just what did she do right before this? Okay, put her in that pose. Then begin walking because that's too stiff looking. And then um, that kind of big lift of the knee that just looks weird and off balance. So she should start moving forward right away and leaning forward a bit immediately as she puts that leg forward and not lift the feet so high off the ground. When we walk normally we keep our feet very close to the ground and she's lifting kind of high and then it appears to be slipping backwards, which makes me concerned. Maybe you're animating with the main control instead of leaving that in place. Um, and so she pauses here, and I'm always a fan of getting holds in there, but it's sort of accelerates kind of quickly. I'm really liking this pose. That looks good. I really like the hand resting on the shoulder. She kind of comes out of it too quickly. Again, really good pose there. But then she really pops out of it. So, first of all, come out a little more slowly, and also maybe not all at once. Maybe, this hand first and then that hand, that kind of thing, so it doesn't seem so. And also, just they reach much too far out, much too fast. Maybe she reaches one arm out, grabs it, slides it closer to her, and then picks it up with a second hand. Um, I also consider having the camera a little lower, like more at her eye level or below. You might like that better. There's a tiny little pop when she picks this up, and it might be good to kind of have a pause there where she rests her hands on it first, and then her root goes down. She rests her hands on it. Make sure it doesn't pop up like it is. Pause, and then her root goes down a little bit before she then lifts it up. If she kind of shifted back to sort of stick her butt out behind her more, that can help, show that she is counterbalancing the weight. So if this shield is heavy and she's kind of leaning forward and has this out in front of her, that's going to kind of pull her to fall forward. But if she sticks her butt out behind her to kind of counterbalance the weight of the shield, that would help, make her look a bit more balanced and give the shield some weight. And this is, if she's, I don't know exactly what's going on here, but if it's the idea that she's, putting her arm in the sort of shield holder straps that you would normally find there, I feel like you need to break that down a little bit. For example, maybe she sets the bottom point of the shield on the table for a moment, then maybe moves this hand to the top, and then behind the shield her other arm kind of slips through those straps, and then she's holding it. So I think if that's what's happening, and it looks like that's what's happening, I would break it down more. All that said, yeah, there's some good poses. There's some good stuff going on here. I think you could definitely get some good improvements. Get those legs moving a little bit better. Don't do such a pop there. That pop really grabs the eye. And then maybe break this down a little more. And yeah, you could take this to the next level. Good work, though. Next up is Shawn. There's a lot of really good stuff going on in here. A lot of attention to detail. Some plenty of difficult actions to have to deal with. You've got some real movement on her body when she's setting these things down, and some good thought. I think that the first thing I would say is, I'm really wanting a different shot for the opener. I mean, this pot here is almost completely obscuring all these motions, and if we're only seeing what's in this frame, we literally almost don't see her at all for this first. Because this stuff we're seeing outside of that frame, you actually, in the render you wouldn't see. So, I would say just a completely different opening shot. Like, give us a wide. The typical thing is a wider shot to establish the scene, and at the beginning. So, do a different shot for that. That pause looks just funny. Like I'm always a fan of having some holds in there, but it's a little bit. It looks awkward because I don't know what's happening in her head there that she had to suddenly stop there. So I'd expect that to be more. I mean, if I was going to kind of pause like that, I might pause more here right before she kneels down. And I think that that's sort of a challenging way to kneel down, like while holding the box. I mean, I guess I don't want to change the whole animation. I sort of think that I might set the box down first and then kneel on the ground, more likely. That would give me the opportunity to, like, for example, rest a hand on the table to give myself some support as I kneel down. So it looks a little awkward that way. So um, and so you don't have a free hand to support yourself in anything, and kneeling down like that without supporting yourself, it just feels a little unnatural. Liking this stuff, taking it out of the case, that's really just some nice stuff there. When she pulls the objects out of there, that's working really well. So yeah, there's loads of good stuff going on here. I think that going down to the kneel could use some work, and then starting out with a wider shot, and just those two things could go a long way to improve this. Good work.